Well, actually, fuck it. I keep it at the level I want to. I'll let my voice power over the background music. Well, why do I do this, actually? If you want to know, the music is actually important. And a lot of the beginning of my career was actually starting off with NLP hypnosis, and I guess you could say the conventional mindset coaching that most people have. So a lot of it had to do with, anchoring emotions. It's funny how they utilize their emotions as like these tactical practitioners. And to say that they had a connection with them is exactly what I'm created this page about, which is recognizing a little bit about what constitutes humanity. So I wanted to open up today with something that I feel is incredibly necessary. Working in intimate relationships, I realize if there's one word to describe why most people can't be vulnerable or have a conversation, or even more so, be able to express what they truly feel, they're terrified. I'm terrified. There was something I wanted to speak about today, and I think it's really about an understanding of love and its manifestation is one that you need to be there for in order to experience. And a little bit about experiencing love is very similar to experiencing fear. Both of them put you into a place where you have to experience the emotion in your body. Now, most people don't know what I'm talking about when I say that, but, well, to be honest with you, I don't know where my speaking ability went. There's a particular, something I enjoy about this spot more than the other spot, is that I like to be a little bit more under the spotlight here. It's kind of like what I'm trying to simulate. But I recognize it's a little bit about, being seen. So I think it's what we want more than anything. The last video that I recorded, I talked a lot about this yearning for connection and even the desperation I have for it. And today I wanted to talk more about fear because I believe that fear is most relevant into, it's probably the biggest indicator of how close you are to you and how close you can be to someone. Well, if you really want to know what love is, it's being able to create a space for you to experience all that you feel and that you can connect to it. A few dreams that I had this week that I wanted to start off, which is, I think a recognition of the trouble I have in my soul is not a secret that I even keep from you, but it's one that I've kept from my life in a lot of way. And you could say, well, that separated me from that life. So what I've noticed to be someone who's struggling or somebody who's troubled is that there's a break in the line, of love. And I understand why people look to their parents and why they look to their development as a way to feel more connected to themselves, is because they understand that this thing had to exist before they came here. So we're connecting to a truth that has existed throughout all time, and it's an ocean of eternity, and that is the experience of love that surrounds us all the time. Now, this isn't love in the classic fairy tale sense. I think this is love in an understanding that it's a transformation that you're experiencing, a constant transformation, and maybe perhaps the natural evolution of a human being throughout their life. A lot of what makes growth is not that it's forced. It's actually natural. Now, I notice the majority about our culture is that, you have to really force these things in order for those things to happen so that you can get what you want, because if you don't, you'll be forgotten because you're nobody. It's like, What I really wanted to share is my own personal experience today, and my own personal experience with fear. And I feel like there's just no other way for me to actually have this conversation or make this video productive if I don't. I had a whole lecture right before this. An hour of it was psychobabble and a film analysis of a movie when really those things just spoke to me on an emotional level. I've never been this open in my life. And I guess you could say the last time you guys watched that other video, well, I was talking about how I was open with how closed off I am to love. You know what's really wild, though, is that you can start recognizing a little bit of how the shame is almost an excuse for you to not face the fear of what if you were? What if you can't? And I noticed that love does something. Love speaks to the goodness in yourself, and it reminds you of it. The movie that I watched the other day, due to this, wow, let's see what we got here. On Do Not Disturb. This is like my favorite thing when I film videos, is like, depends on how many distractions I have around a particular thing is actually really important for me to recognize that, do I really want to say this? Do I even really want to film this video? Do I even really want to talk about these things? And I feel like it's just, there's no better time than to just lead by example, for fuck's sake. I'm 25 years old. I live in the world that you live in. I'm single. I coach people with their relationships, and you'd probably be shocked as to why I can do that. And I promise you, it's not because I'm claiming that I have the relationship of the century, but I understand a little bit about human nature. Maybe that'll shine a light on your dysfunctions. And that's an extension into your personal relationships. And so there's one thing at the heart, and there's one thing that every person needs to be fostering, is recognizing the importance of connection is what births the individual. I am not joking when I say this. Thinking about it and experiencing it are not the same thing. Something about what a relationship represents, and I feel that the male-female relationship is what you are committed to in your life. A woman will only amplify that path for you. There is no diminishment of your relationship with you. In fact, actually, if you're having a real relationship, not the narcissistic 21st century relationship, you're going to experience a lot of terror and insecurity around the person that you love the most, and you're going to learn to be courageous because maybe you guys are going to exist as one.
Can I stop you for a second?
Go for it.
You keep avoiding talking about your own fear.
Well, I just want to give it a little context. I'm trying to integrate it into something.
You've gone like...
Oh, okay, you're right. I mean, it's a question of like what kind of fear. Like I don't even have a clear understanding of it, but I know it's just something that I am feeling and experiencing. And I recognize that we all need a reason or a permission to feel what we feel, when maybe that's exactly what gets in the way of you actually having a connection to what you're experiencing and what that really shines a light on. We almost feel like it removes clarity from us, so we try to create like the rose-colored glasses of clarity of what we're experiencing, when in fact actually the emotion itself is already communicating with you what this is. When I talked about that gap, when I talked about that distance, what we're really talking about is the distance from the ocean of love that we have in our lives. And this humanity component that I talk about a lot is actually embodied in the child. So in a lot of ways, when we talk about attachments and we talk about intimate relationships, we're really talking about your childhood development. And feeling safe is one of the most important experiences to create somebody who has what you call secure relationships, meaning that, they actually have an ability to be open with the person, to guide the person, to lead them, especially as a man and as a woman, to follow without this whole expectation of them needing to be God. So you're creating two individuals who can actually be compatible with each other because they've learned to experience the one emotion that seems to be the one that gets in all the way of every single intimate romantic relationship you've ever had, fear. And so I'll speak for myself here. It was interesting because I didn't really know what it was about, but I was feeling and experiencing a lot of fear in my life because, maybe the way that I have my current business is not the way that I want to run it. Maybe the way that I do this is not the way that I've done it before. Maybe you're watching this video 3 months after I already filmed it. And maybe that's not even something I want to do. I want to have my face in it. I want to feel my impact. I want to feel the presence. I want to experience what reality looks like and what I do in reality and how that looks in the people that I have around me. And so I'd be curious if you guys are open to live events, because I'd love to hear what you think in the comments, because I'd love to be able to do this with you in person. Not to be able to look through a camera, but maybe have the camera look at something that can invite other people to experience what we're sharing. And if you could experience it over a screen, I could just imagine what you could experience with a person. And so enough of me avoiding the very fear that I'm experiencing. But look, I think that this fear is really a question of, can you be there for yourself? And I could tell you when I fear the most fear. Around intimate relationships. And if you want the best word of advice, is remember this, that if you're going to be looking for an intimate relationship, all of your unresolved emotions from your past intimate relationships will come up into that one. But remember, the only way you heal them is in the relationship. It's the only way you heal it. And so, you're trying to lock yourself in a room and isolate yourself from reality, but the truth is that's the manifestation of somebody who's terrified and not courageous enough to admit it. There's no shame in fear. There's shame in how you treat yourself when you are afraid. If there's a part of you that can connect you to your strength, it's the part of you that is afraid. And the best way to put it is if a son is going to watch their father go downstairs, and it's dark and it's scary, and he goes, "Daddy, don't go. Don't leave." He's saying that partially for concern. He's also terrified about what's there. When we think about how we comfort a child, something I've noticed about working with clients is that they need the same kind of comfort a child would. It doesn't change. The child doesn't not exist in a human being. You aren't an animal. There's an evolution of the person that allows them to exist of all of their days up to this very point. And when I'm working with somebody, I'm almost not working with that particular person on that day. I'm talking about the entirety of the person. Even their potential future is in the room. That's when you talk to a person, you incorporate the vision of their life compounded with all of their experiences and who they show up as today. And so this child goes, "Daddy, don't go. Don't leave. I'm scared." it's a good drill. And I think it's important for you guys to ask yourself to already see your relationship with fear and how you interact with this. Where do you go? What's your reaction? What do? Do you criticize? Do you dismiss it? Do you stonewall it? Do you get defensive? Do you have contempt for it? And if you haven't noticed, those 4 things that I listed are one of the 4 things that destroy all relationships. And, maybe you're responsible for your life, and maybe the relationship that you have with yourself is going to be a manifestation of the life that you live and the relationship that you have, because this is no longer a joke. This is a recognition of who you are and what love really speaks to. A majority of people think that, love is something they have to go ahead and chase. If I were to tell you it's chasing you, if I were to tell you that that boy wants a relationship with you, you wouldn't believe it. Makes sense? I didn't believe it either. The very fact that the child that I abandoned, you could say even myself, and the years of self-abandonment and the grief that comes with that. Well, really, the one thing I never believed is that he wanted a relationship with me. You're his hero. You're her hero. Even working with clients and those who have abandonment issues, there's one thing that I noticed, that even throughout the most difficult of relationships that people have had with their parents, a child just wants to know that you want a relationship with them, because that's all they want. Just want a relationship with you. And by the way, you're telling me that's not speaking to an existential matter, which is not just a God in the universe that's there, that he made this little speck in consciousness and it's all fuck you. That he wants a relationship with you. I mean, that's the mirror of the biblical stories. So when we talk about fear, we're talking about the fear that a loving God exists. We're talking about fear that this love is a straight line through our generations, and you actually get to walk with it, and you get to share that with your children's 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 children. And so you could say the process of alignment is letting that go through, letting that flow through, letting yourself experience that. And the amount of courage it takes in order to do that is not just about material accumulation. It's about transformation of the individual. And that means that there's a purpose to what's in your life at the time that there's in your life. But throughout your whole life, you're living it. Life goes by fast. That should scare you. Intimate relationships can destroy your life. That should scare you. Death is real. That should scare you. And I think a lot of the time people like to diminish the fact that fear is such a relevant part of your life. And the question is to what purpose? And what does it serve? And the one emotion I believe that we've all separated ourselves from because we don't want to be seen as weak is fear. Fear at its core, if you're feeling afraid, what does that mean about you? What are you afraid of? And so I was talking about my desperation, and I was talking about my yearning for connection. And the very fact that I need to develop a relationship with that is one thing. But the truth is what happens once I develop a relationship with that thing and meet somebody who loves it? Fear. Of course, we feel the neighboring shame along the fears that we have in our life. And you'll notice something interesting about fear is that, about shame, is that it always has a neighboring fear. And so the part of myself that I had shame around for years, and I've actually been becoming conscious of, I hope I'm no longer becoming a mystery, and I'm experiencing this whole process of it, and this is not an analysis more than it is an expression. I have an ability, and a unique ability, to express it the way that I do, and that's fascinating, that I actually get an opportunity to do it. When I watch my videos, and I go back and I watch it, and I see that I'm not experiencing what I'm feeling, I almost feel that I did a disservice to myself more than anything else. Because I didn't really tell you what I was really trying to say, and even more importantly, what I could connect you with in yourself that could speak with you for eternity. So there's this shame, and a shame of, I want this connection. I want it fast. I even feel shame for that. And I want it the way that I want it, and I feel shame for that. And the way that I want connection, I feel shame for. I'm not alone with this. I know I'm not alone with this. If I was alone with this, then I'd probably be hiding it. But the truth is majority of people are hiding this exact experience, and they're living alone. They are not sharing this collectively. And they don't even have the courage to get other people to open up. Because if you want to know what happened, interestingly enough, in my family, when I started doing this, I started realizing they're all experiencing the exact same thing. Well, who was the courageous son of a bitch that actually decided to be brave? And so what I recognize is that for 24 years of my life, I existed as a concept, and people loved the things that I said about values and principles and morality, and they loved it. They could suck it up because it lined up with their own current framework. But what about you individually existing in your life and incorporating every single little bit of this, and an embodiment of that incorporation is you? So now you're no longer separating yourself from the material. You're integrating the material and living with it in your life and embodying it over long periods of time. When I first started this whole opening up thing, even this thing that I'm doing right now, talking about fear, I get a little skippy, I get a little jumpy, because what does it take me into? Well, It takes me into a relationship with myself. When I talk about the sadness and the ocean, I'm talking about the distance. I'm talking about the distance from having a loving relationship with yourself. And what a loving relationship constitutes, because I was thinking about it for a long time this week, is what does it mean to love yourself? Well, to give yourself a space to experience everything that you are. That's freedom. The neighboring fear of that shame, well, I think in a lot of ways, in a nutshell, it's dying alone. But not just dying alone. I never changed. I never grew. I held on to a fantasy. I lied to myself. I lost everything about who I am. And I gave it up for someone who doesn't even care. This is a very familiar nightmare. I talk about it with my clients. I have too. I mean, it's the nightmare that, your life really means nothing, and that this connection you're looking for is just going to be, turned on by the person that you claim to love, and that was never actually a connection. You were just lying to yourself because of this meaningless existence you live. And what's interesting? What doesn't belong is exactly what needs to be incorporated, or at least what you feel doesn't belong is what you need to bring. Because through that is the very thing you're looking for. And as this fear is building up, and I didn't know what it was about, well, I think it was about recognizing that I was developing a connection with these parts of myself that I rejected. Well, what's the greatest fear of all? Well, you'll be seen as you are. And it will be real this time. No, we often talk about that it'll be rejected. No. I think that you bring it into reality and incorporate it into reality as a part of yourself for the rest of your life. You don't hide it, you don't bury it, you live with it. And what I noticed is that the sources of inspiration, the people that are truly an inspiration, are the ones that could live with all of what they are, and their individuality is more compelling than what they tell themselves they need. They're inspiring, a beacon of light, and they're living with their humanity. Something always wrong about a person who could make a change. Perceivably wrong, but everything right. And so the other day, I was talking about how closed off I've been. It's been the most open I've ever been, and it's been progressively more and more isolating, but this time I've been feeling more connected. In the midst of this fear, I kept having these flashes, and they were very powerful, 4D, visceral. It was a desert road, and almost a mirage of me. Miles and miles away, but I could see a little speck of it. The white tank tops, the blue shorts, something you'd want to wear in a desert. Well, probably not for too long anyways. And what I couldn't believe is that this little boy, this very part of myself I wanted a relationship with, was running to me. Doesn't that change the story? It's not like you're running to it. You're running from it. It's a very powerful switch to have, because then I think you would recognize the responsibility that comes with it. Being alive is difficult because there are terrifying moments in life. There are moments of unknown, and if you're actually living your life, then you're swimming there for a lot longer than you think. And those moments of unknown are when you truly get to know yourself. And so you're experiencing yourself through a way that you can never be prepared. And you're willing to experience life that way. That's somebody who lives with faith. I think about the patriarch Abraham being somebody who went for himself in a world that never knew of this one God that exists intrinsically within a man. I mean, there's a level of insanity to go out in the unknown. But to say that there wasn't fear involved, I think the whole experience was bounding because it meant that his life meant something. And it was not just feeding into an insanity or a voice that was in there. I think it was actually playing into something that was true about reality, that has existed throughout all reality, and having the faith to make that true through you. This child is running to me. And I can't believe why he wants a relationship with me. Why? That comes to mind. Why? I've only left you. I feel that there's something powerful about that. Which is because, yeah, you did. Why would it matter if I can love you? We can love each other. That's the love transcending tragedy. And forgiveness is real too. And to think that a journey of transformation is not a journey of love, and throughout that journey of love is forgiveness. So I watched the movie The Music Man, and the whole time I was feeling fear, but I found myself crying throughout the whole film. It's 2.5 hours. The film is, I believe, a 1965 film with Robert Preston. It's a redone iteration of the Music Man play on Broadway, which he played himself. I never knew what it meant to be there for yourself. I hear it a lot. I really hear it a lot. I don't know what it means. And how could you carry that into a relationship without making the person the expectation of the universe to wipe your ass for everything you don't know how to experience? And by the way, I mean, this is important now because we're at a very particular point in human history. And I think it's at a particular point in human history where AI can do a better job of you than you can. And it's not just saying that AI is good. It's just actually laughable that humanity is this artificial. This easy to replicate. Oh, I can't tell the difference. Yeah, that's how most people are with women. They can't tell which one is sexual versus which one likes to post naked photos on the internet. That's a very big difference. I don't know, he acted like a man. No, that was a Barbie. It wasn't a man. Well, a disconnected people is not a free people. Well, I mean, that's the disembodied consciousness. That's a slave. Slave to all of what they're unconscious to. If there was an ocean of love, and there was a wall that you built, and you don't break it with a force that is forceful, you break it with a touch of love, and it crumbles like ash. And waters do what they do is they wash over, they cleanse, they purify, they reconnect you with the surface. The biblical flood of Noah, there's a very powerful metaphor here, is that this heartfelt sadness drowned the world. And I found that to be beautiful because that means that there is a loving God, that there is a distance that he could feel with his own creation, that they could become so disconnected that they take from the wives of other men. And that was a very particular one, which I think is really speaking to the intimate relationship that God has with us. It means that they become so disconnected from that relationship within themselves that they would do it with anyone and anything. And he's regret made man. And then Noah found favor in God's eyes. And I found that to be beautiful, which is, like, love is rare. Connection's rare. I mean, are you willing to, to be one man and stand with that? And maybe with the rest of life and its innocence, the rest of nature? And to float in that flood, to experience it. What I did think was beautiful is that God got closer to Noah after. He made a covenant. And when we talk about covenants, really, what we're really talking about is marriage. And we're talking about union, two essences coming together. And at a core, that's what marriage is. It is a covenant. And as young men in the Jewish tradition, you should have a circumcision, and that's a covenant too. Well, and that covenant brings you closer. And that's the point. Maybe you could come a little closer, remove what surrounds the surface of your ability to penetrate and feel. If you can feel that, then I know that we can. And we could feel that distance between ourselves and that very essence that connects us to a higher understanding. I've only been experiencing fear this week. I had to let go of a lot of employees. I had to let go of a lot of philosophies. I had to embody a lot of myself. I'll have to start showing up to my life, and maybe somebody will have the courage to let those tears roll, to let that heart open. The analysis, the theological conversations, all of it is so far removed from the humanity that opens the doors in a person that gets them to see the person and to see themselves. In the midst of watching that movie, all I really saw was a person who was able to experience the goodness in themselves that they could never believe that they could be. That's why they adopted being a con man as a solution. And like the difference between an honest man and a con man is the disbelief. And you're like, well, why? And it's like, well, because they're both going to do the same thing and embody the same goodness at whatever effect, but it's a question of does it transform? And so you could say the difference between that is love. And we don't know much about it. And to say that your intentions are pure is exactly the problem. It's like, what if you assume that this one thing that you claim that you're looking for, you're running from because it terrifies you? And to say that it's not a flood that will come and wash over, but it's also the very thing that will cleanse you. And so in this moment, I saw that. It was like, how is it you are there for yourself? How you would be there for a child. And that doesn't disappear from you, by the way. I'm an excellent performer, world-class actor, get it from my dad. They didn't make me a truthful person, didn't make me a courageous one either, and it didn't make me brave. I really only started to be brave when I started to experience everything that was in opposition to an honest expression, to being who I am, to expressing what that is. Because I'm beginning to realize that more and more, that those who are willing to express their emotions in the truest way possible, and this is not in the juvenile interpretation of it, they're really willing to bring their life, to resurrect this town from its square-toed ways. In a lot of ways, it's the appropriate deviance to make things right. That'll definitely expand your understanding of morality. When you see it's the con man who came to town, and he's the one that made the town sing for once. He didn't know much about music, but he embodied it. And well, he never could believe that about himself. And Marion, she saw the good that he can do because she saw how it affected the people she loved. And he was blind to that goodness. So love is all seeing. Are you sure you want that? You want to be under the light of love? Do you want to be seen? Be seen for your desperation, to be seen for your hunger, to be seen for your potential inadequacies, to be seen for your shame, to be seen for your inadequacy and perhaps your unavailability. You don't know love. How could you know love until you experience terror? A terror that you would be willing to embrace yourself with. To be there for that boy, Daddy, don't go. I'm right here. That's how you strengthen a boy. That's how you strengthen a girl. I'm right here. And I feel like that's always what God says. And it's like, do not fear, for I'm with you. And I think that's confirming of a relationship that is there throughout all of what passes through us. And so here's something really beautiful about life as well. If you're afraid of really connecting to this fear or experiencing it in yourself, then you're afraid of having a relationship with yourself when you experience fear. I loved bypassing. I started this off talking about how I liked, the NLP and the coaching and the tactics and the performances. Oh my God, you might as well have just pulled the plug on my existence, because everything that made me who I am was everything I worked to avoid so conveniently. And so I became a picture-perfect performance piece in my head, or at least of what I thought it was. And of course, it never worked. It never met any of my needs. I felt empty. And so the process of not feeling empty is feeling the whole. That's the first step. And that process of feeling the whole is fulfillment. I know how rare connection is, and I spoke about that because, I can't just have it with everybody. It doesn't just mean a pretty face. This Saturday, I went to go, practice some bachata with my friend. He came with his girlfriend and her friend too. And I gotta say, you could find someone attractive and not be attracted to them. There's a very big difference. That there has to be a connection, and an underlying connection that exists more than just what you see about the person, that allows you to feel like there's something beyond it. And of course, there I felt nothing, and it reminded me the tremendous sadness of what it is to feel connection in your life, and the tremendous rarity of it. But then I recognized that these things aren't so rare, because when I speak to you, you understand. And if I speak to you and you understand it, it means that you have it and then you live with it. The question is what are you doing about it? Is that even something you connect to? And that's the first place you go before you ask anyhow. It's just, do you want to bring life to this shell of your life? And that's a choice you make. And I feel that, we've removed ourselves from thinking that this life was a burden that was placed on us. You're forgetting that most people exist as zombies. You could choose to die if you want. You could walk your unconscious mechanism, not remember anything. AI could replicate your life and it'd be right, because you're nothing more than a robot. Well, fear. Oh my God, the first time I got to really be with myself. To hold myself like I would a child. Daddy, don't go. I'm right here. So much of what I noticed even in my group is that, most people don't even have a space to discover themselves. And they have to, talk about concepts. And then they have to talk about their relationship, and they have to use that relationship as a way to understand something about themselves that's really just mirroring everything about who they are. But then I start to recognize a little bit more that a person can't speak themselves into reality, because that there's no safety around that. And then you might go think, well, how can I create that kind of safety? I'll be honest with you. It is not through a relationship with a picture-perfect person who has done no wrong. It's through developing the strength to create that security in your relationship and extend it to them. It's a personal commitment. something I really like about the stuff that's meaningful is that it exists for you beyond what it exists for others. So there's an implied selfishness behind this journey, that this does something for you. It's a meaning, like that the representation of it in the Music Man film was perfect. You know, maybe for once he didn't need to be a door-to-door con man talking about a boy band. He could actually be a music professor because he embodies it. He's been talking about it his whole life, but he never believed it. Just when he got to see the good that he does, even through perhaps the act, why not believe it? And you know, love reminds us of that, the goodness in ourselves. It's unimaginable of the potential of what we can be. You're telling me that's not scary? And I'll just tell you, one of my favorite parts of the film is the end of the film. You know, he's caught for his act. The whole town gathers up in their jury. Last minute jury, the one you use to hang somebody. And he's there with handcuffs on and Marion's by his side. She knew his secret all along because she was the only musician. So you might say that, you know, the woman that you really want is also the woman that could see through all of your bullshit. And of course, well, because if he's the con artist musician and she's the real musician, his job is to seduce her, so it goes under her nose, right? But of course, she couldn't seduce him. Not until she realized the goodness that existed in him. Which is very true for women who exist with complexity. But there needs to be goodness in a person. And a lot of the time, I think the people that are the deviant types are the ones that don't believe that goodness in themselves. And they just kind of live a life where they have to either deal with it or just live with it because it's better to do this than anything else. And then that could create narcissism over long periods of time. But I feel like there's pivotal points in a person's life where they can open up. So he's standing, surrounded by all the people of the town. And the mayor slams his hammer and he says, "All of those who want to see him dead, hung by the neck, tarred and feathered, remain seated. All of those who want him to live, stand up." And of course, the first woman to stand up was the mother of the child that he impacted. The one person that was able to recognize a little bit about how close that was. And then, of course, the rest of the town gets up. And as the rest of the town gets up, they all say, "He brought this square-toed town to life. We were nobody. We had nothing. The money, that's not even important. This town came to life." And you could say, well, that's the incorporation of the dark nature there. And of course, and I think that if we're talking about a love story, we're talking about a transformation story. So in the midst of that, the boy band comes in. And of course, he didn't teach them a single note of music. He just gave them a bunch of instruments. They all invested in the instruments. He took the commission from all the instruments that was there and then leaves from town to town. But this time, love forces you to face yourself and your dream. And it's not a question of how you'll do it. It's a question that you're going to do it. So Marion, she grabs the stick and she breaks it in half right under the chalkboard and she hands it to him. For once in his life, he could see himself as a composer. And he gets up on the little step and there's the boy band in front of him and he goes to wave his hands. And as he does, he goes, "I can't do it. Can't do it." And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That. And as he steps down from the step, Marion pushes him back up, hands him the stick again. Yeah, your transformation story doesn't exist without pure terror. You're telling me standing in front of the person you never believed you can become is not going to feel that way. And maybe this time, just a little bit from your wrists. And as he does that, the band starts to play. Out of tune, out of key, out of rhythm. But that was the beginning. And the beginning was confirming of who he once always was, that never believed. And in the midst of him moving his wrist, the band transforms into an orchestra, and he transforms into the Music Man. Love reminds us of the goodness in ourselves. And to say that that's not a fearful journey, in fact, it's a whole story about somebody running. The other night, well, it was earlier that afternoon, I'll integrate it into my life. I was talking about how rare the connection is, but you guys will know when it's there. It's there and it's real, and it'll shoot you in the face. And it shot me. So I get up from my car to go learn French at this one cafe. And there was a girl, maybe right over there, 5 feet away across the street, not a long street. Something interesting about, connections is they're never forced. I didn't have to walk across the street or anything like that. I just needed to walk in the direction I wanted to go. In fact, you could say she was in my way. And as I walk across the street, she's wearing this beautiful dress, thick, full black hair, piercing blue eyes, and just, it hit me. And as she walks by me, I just go, "Excuse me." I was just like, wow. And that was the first thing I said, wow. And she was like, oh my God, thank you. And she's like, well, look at you. Wow. And I was like, I don't know what it is. Your outfit, just everything here is just wonderful. And she's like, well, I feel the same way. Look at you. And I was like, you're European? She's like, no, just white. And I walked her to her car, wherever she was. And there was something there that hit me. And I'm not joking when I say this. Like my whole body ignited. Boner, everything. Uncontrollable response. But it was effortless. I did nothing. It was like, okay, I guess get your phone number because I like the idea of us talking. Now, what do you think I felt after that? I'll tell you, you could actually put it this way. What did I used to feel? Nothing. I used to feel performance. Hey, Allah, let's learn French. What I feel now is what I felt my whole life. I'm open up to the parts of me that I've buried and hidden, and I may be open up to those parts of me existing in my life without having to bury and hide them. There is no change in the way that you created it. Your definition of change is suicide. Oh, maybe if I make my parents like this, and then I can have a relationship that's not like my parents. You want to know how it works psychologically? You experience the doomsday. It's the only way to change it. You know, it's actually something so powerful is that people in their relationships go, oh my God, I'm dad and she's mom, and we're doing the same dance. You know the people that change it? The ones that look and go, I've seen this. I've seen this. Take off the mask of our soul. But you can't do that if you can't be there with yourself. And well, after I got her number, you would love this. I couldn't sit on the seat. I was terrified. I felt a fear like I never felt before. I didn't get rid of all of the fears. Of course, it amplified them. And that's like the worst thing ever, especially if it goes well. But then I realized this didn't have much to do with the girl. It had a lot to do with the safety that I don't experience with myself. Around these parts of me, that there's a fear that I will abandon me again. And it may be potentially warranted fear, but I'm recognizing the beginning of living with that is to recognize it's the source of your strength. That night I had a nightmare, and of course the nightmare went a little bit like missing the date when it was the one thing I could think about. I couldn't stop thinking about. And of course missing the content day too, because then maybe I'd have to, come clean, as they say. And again, I woke up this morning. It's like, oh my God, so much fear. Shivering. Yet I could feel it in my body. And a very practical trick to do in order to feel emotions is you breathe into them and you could see where you feel them and you could see where you go. And this was like the first time in my life I was actually doing something. I was being there for me. A lot of the time we just like to separate ourselves from the thing that feels as a solution, thinking that's change or progress or growth. No, that's destruction. Now, the growth is when there's the unification of this split, and you bring them close, and you make them one. And you don't just have to exist with this performance or this con that you have going around about who you are. You can live as who you are and be loved for it. But there's a point in your life where you'll have to be brave. And to be brave is really to be there for yourself. It's to let you know that you are there.